Someone said to me, you won't read as well as you did the last time I heard you. It's true, I won't. With a very sober, careful reading. This isn't going to be one. This is my first book. I reissued it myself. It was called On the Edge when it first came out in 1963 in an edition of 220 copies. And just took 7 or 8 years to sell out. My mother was unemployed. I republished it recently along with Cloud Marauder, a press in Oakland, California. And the original cost $6, and this one cost $1. Cost you $1. Cost if you buy in a bookstore, it costs you $2.50. But I had it made a special shape so that you don't have to buy it. Actually, just not that I have to sell you. I'd like to read a poem from it. The title poem, which is a really nasty poem, I think, which reflects the kind of person I used to be, called On the Edge. Came out of a weird experience. I went to Stanford University once. I know it doesn't show. On a writing grant, and I was very unhappy there, and very lonely, and I was the only man. Or woman. The other people were all sexless. I went to hear a lecture once on Edgar Allan Poe, who's the poet I like least in the whole world. And I made the mistake that Patty's making. I sat in the front row. And the lecture was delivered in French, which I don't know. I think there were only about 7 people. I couldn't get up and leave. But the guy kept saying, Edgar Poe. I mean, he said it in such a beautiful way. Edgar Allan Poe. I was so entranced by that I went home and wrote this. This is a real... I was at Stanford for a year. This is a real... At Stanford for a lonely year. On the Edge, it's called. My name is Edgar Poe, and I was born in 1928 in Michigan. Nobody gave a damn. The gruel I ate kept me alive. Nothing kept me warm. But I grew up almost to 5'10", and nothing in the world can change my weight. I have been watching you these many years, there in the office, pencil poised and ready, or on the highway when you went ahead. I did not write. I watched you watch the stars, believing that the wheel of fate was steady. I saw you rise from love and go to bed. I heard you lie, even to your daughter. I did not write. For I am Edgar Poe, Edgar the mad one, silly, drunk, unwise, but Edgar waiting on the edge of laughter. And there is nothing that he does not know, whose page is blanker than the raining skies. That's a 50s poem. Look at it. 50s. Stanzas, rhyme, the whole thing. I mean, I've been around a long time. I was asked to read a poem that comes out of growing up in Detroit. I mean, I didn't just grow up there. I stayed there for a while. I mean, it's, you know, to get to be 12 and 14, you know, in Detroit is I think, defensible, but to go beyond 18 is ridiculous. And I stayed till I was 25, for which I have no excuse. Actually, the poem I was asked to read goes with another poem, so I'll read them both. I like to read them together. I don't know why. I guess because they're both about staying up all night, which is something I did as a younger person. Those of you who have seen me for the last few days know that it would be impossible. Even the Red Chinese could not keep me up all night. Nobody can keep me up all night. I can't even keep myself up all night. Now, this one's called A New Day, and it's about driving after work. I worked in the factories in Detroit for several years. In order that I might go to college and fulfill my family's dreams. Friday nights, often we would drive to Chicago in some mistaken belief that it was going to be radically different. Somewhere around Kalamazoo, we would always pass a car of tired factory workers heading to Detroit. Wave at them and smile, they tough shit. It's called A New Day. And I think the ending has a special meaning in the sense that my parents were immigrants and, from Russia. Coming to this country had a special meaning to them. Like the man in the poem, Jersey Joe Walcott, the man I meet on the beach, former heavyweight champion of the world. But I meet him, he's over the hill, he's no longer the champion. The headlights fading out at dawn, the stranger at the shore not awakening to the great sea out of sleep and night, and no sun rising where it rose before. The old champion in a sweatsuit tells me this is Chicago. This, he does not say, is not the sea, but the chopped gray lake you get to after traveling all night from Dubuque, Cairo, or Wyandotte. He takes off at a slow trot, and the fat slides under his shirt. I recall the Friday night in a beer garden in Detroit. I saw him flatten Ezzard Charles on TV and weep and raise both gloved hands in a slow salute to a god. I could tell him that. I could tell him that those good days were no more and no less than these. I could tell him that I thought by now I must have reached the sea we read about, or that last night I saw a man break down and cry out of luck and out of gas in Bruce's Crossing. We collect here at the shore, the two of us, to make a pact. A people come for a new world and a new home. And what we get is what we bring. A gray light coming on at dawn, no fresh start and no bird song, and no sea and no shore that someone hasn't seen before. That's a 50s song. I couldn't do that now if my life depended. This is the poem I was asked. It's called Blasting from Heaven. It's written out of the same, very similar experience of being up all night. Except I try to do something totally different, and that is to capture that marvelous but deceptive state you get in after you haven't slept for a long time. You know, everything is so fun. And it's really a kind of warning I've learned. You know, a half hour after everything is so funny, you're going to try to kill yourself. And if you have any wits, get into bed and just get through it. And this is in that state. It takes place in a little diner across from, actually, Chevrolet Gear and Axle Factory in Hamtramck, Michigan, which is a city inside Detroit. Sounds like a description of hell, but it actually is. There is a little city called Hamtramck. Blasting from heaven. The little girl won't eat her sandwich. She lifts the bun and looks in, but the gray beef coated with relish is always there. Her mother says, "Do it for mother." Milk and relish and a hard bun that comes off like a hat. A kid's life is a sin. And a mother's life? What can you do with a man like that? She asks the sleeping cook. And then the old Negro won't sit. He's been out all night trying to get it. I hope he gets it. What did he ever do but get it? The Negro doesn't look, so he looks like he's been out all night trying. Everyone's been out all night trying. Why else would we be drinking beer at attention? If she were younger, or if I were Prince Valiant, I would say that fate brought me here to quiet the crime, to sweeten the sandwich of the child, to waken the cook, to stop the Negro from bearing witness to the world. The dawn still hasn't come. And now we hear the 8 o'clock whistles blasting from heaven. And with no morning, the day is sold. I've been asked to read a couple of... This book's called They Keep a Line. The Library of Congress listed as They Keep the Line. Correcting my grammar. Which, Library of Congress is entirely Southern. They don't recognize this, I guess. They don't recognize their own language as a language. I was asked to read one poem. I'm going to read one that sort of goes before it, in a way. It's called Saturday Sweeping. I wasn't asked. If you think this sounds terrible, nobody here was dumb enough to ask me to read it. It comes out of the worst period of my own life, or what has so far been the worst period. I may write a poem tomorrow that will be out of the worst period of my life. One must never count the battle as won. I've learned that a little bit. And that was the Korean War. Kenneth Rexroth was talking the other day that he didn't go to the Second World War. And William Stafford, who's going to come and read here, didn't go to the Second World War, being conscientious objectors. I didn't go to the Korean War. I'm not a pacifist. But I refused to go. There were a lot of people I wanted to kill, but they were all in Detroit. It seemed like I was going to get like a shot at them by crossing the world. At any rate, I was very lonely that time. It was a difficult decision, one that I didn't quite understand when I made it, and I didn't understand to what degree I was my own warden, and how much I could make myself suffer for what I'd done. And this poem comes out of that. It looks forward to the insurrection which was to take place in Detroit in 1967. But it's actually written in 1967, but it's situated in 1952. There's a reference you wouldn't know, the great talking dogs that saved the Jews. When I was a little boy, my grandfather, a Russian Jew, told me a story about a dog that would come to warn the people of this little town that the Cossacks were coming to murder them. And I thought this was a very charming story. Later on, as I grew up, I realized it wasn't all that charming. I mean, it was charming for a child to hear, but it bore a real powerful message, which was, I guess, my grandfather was telling me when I could learn it. If you're going to get any help, you'll get it from a dog rather than a person. There was a certain bitterness in him, although he was a merry man. Saturday Sweeping. Saturday sweeping with an old broom, counting the strokes back and forth. The dust sprays up silver in the February sun and comes down gray. Soft straw muzzle poking in and bringing out scraps of news, little fingers and signatures. Everybody's had this room one time or another and never thought to sweep it. Outside, the snows stiffen. The roofs loosen their last teeth into the streets. Outside, it's 1952. Detroit, unburned, stumbles away from my window over the drained roofs toward the river to scald its useless hands. Half the men in this town are crying in the snow, their eyes blackened like Chinese soldiers. The gates are closing at Dodge, Main and Wyandotte Chemical. They must go home to watch the kids scrub their brown faces or grease cartridges for the showdown. If anyone knocks on your door, he'll be oil-flecked or sea-born. He'll be bringing word from the people of the ice strips or the great talking dogs that saved the Jews. Meanwhile, our masters will come on television to ask for our help. Here, the radiator's working. Stove says, "Don't touch." And the radio's crying, "I don't get enough." I'm my keeper, the only thing I've got, sweeping out my one-room life while the sun's still up. And the poem I was asked to read is called They Keep a Line. I'm not going to say much about it, obviously, intentionally grammar of black Americans. That line, at least. As a young guy, I met a lot of Southerners, both black and white, working in the factories in Detroit. So many landless, poor from the South were driven north so that they might feed with their lives. Great engine of war. And they were very different from a lot of the people that I'd known as a child and people I'd grown up with. And they taught me a great deal about my relationship to myself and the world, and God. And they were very direct people. To put it really bluntly, they didn't take any shit. And I was filled with... and they were very nice to me. Even though they knew I was what they referred to as a college boy. In some ways, they were happy to see that I was among them. That college was not the answer. You could go to college for years and wind up being a jerk. In 1967, when I was living in California, when I read of the insurrection that had taken place in Detroit, and I went home later to see what had happened. And this poem came out of the going home, which surprised me. It surprised me. I mean, I had within me already a feeling of great regard and awe almost for the actions of the people who had burned their own prison. But I had forgotten quite who I was in the intervening years. And walking through the neighborhoods of my hometown, many of which I had lived in, but all of which now were black, I realized that I was, in fact, just what I am, a little middle-aged, lower middle-class white man. And so there was fear that entered me, and I think is part of the expression of this poem. They feed, they line. Out of burlap sacks, out of bearing butter, out of black bean and wet slate bread, out of the acids of rage, the candor of tar, out of creosote, gasoline, drive shafts, wooden dollies, they lie and grow. Out of the gray hills of industrial barns, out of rain, out of bus ride West Virginia to kiss my ass, out of buried aunties, mothers hardening like pounded stumps, out of stumps, out of the bones need to sharpen and the muscles to stretch, they lie and grow. Earth is eating trees, fence posts, gutted cars. Earth is calling in her little ones. Come home, from pig balls, from the ferocity of pig driven to holiness, from the furred ear and the full jowl, come the repose of the hung belly. From the purpose they lie and grow. From the sweet blues of the trotters come the sweet pinks of the fists. From the full flower of the hams, the thorax of caves. From bow down come rise up, come they lion from the reeds of shovels, the grained arm that pulls the hands, they lie and grow. From my 5 arms and all my hands, from all my white sins forgiven they feed, from my car passing under the stars they lion, from my children inherit, from the oak turned to a wall they lion, from they sack and they belly opened, and all that was hidden burning on the oil-stained earth, they feed they lion, and he comes. I went during the Vietnam War to live in Spain. Actually, first Catalunya, around Barcelona, which I liked a great deal, and then because I had less and less money, farther south where it was cheaper. Friends used to write me from California and say, "How can you live in the fastest country?" Now, the irony is, that's good. You wouldn't know the difference then. Reagan appears more seldom in public, that's Mr. Franklin. And I'd like to read a couple poems that come out of that experience, 2 years, going back. This one's called Salami, and it's in 3 separate stanzas. They have no transitions. The first one describes a Spanish woman making salami. The second one, an old stone cutter who has the responsibility of caring for his daughter, who's a full-grown person physically, but a child mentally. And I enter in the third stanza. The word Tramontana is here. It's misspelled. Your editors, they don't save you from anything. He could have said schmuck, you got it wrong, but he didn't. Here it refers to a wind that comes across the mountains and bears down on Barcelona and is reputed to bring violent changes in pressure, air pressure, and madness. Salami. Stomach of goat, crushed sheep balls, soft full pearls of pig eyes, snout bristle, fresh earth, worn iron of trotter, slate of Zaragoza, dried calf heart, cock claws. She grinds them with one hand, and with the other fists mountain thyme, basil, paprika, and knobs of garlic. And if a tooth of stink thistle pulls blood from the round blue marbled hand, all the better for this ruby of Pamplona, this bright jewel of beef, this stained crown of Solsona, this salami. The daughter of mismatched eyes, 36-year-old infant smelling of milk. Mama, she cries, Mama. But Mama is gone, and the old stone cutter must wipe the drool from her jumper. His puffed fingers unbutton and point her to toilet. 10, 12 hours a day, as long as the winter sun holds up, he rebuilds the unvisited church of San Martin. Cheep, cheep of the hammer, high above the town. Sparrow cries, lost in the wind, or lost in the mine. At dusk, he leans to the cold, dull wooden virgin and asks for blessings on the slow one and peace on his own grizzled head. Asks finally and each night for the forbidden, for the knowledge of every mysterious stone. And the words go out on the overwhelming incense of salami. A single crow passed high over the house. I wakened out of nightmare. The winds had changed. The Tramontana was tearing out of the holy mountains to meet the sea winds in my yard, burning and scaring the young pines. The single poplar wailed in terror. With salt, with guilt, with the need to die, the vestments of my life flared. I was on fire, a stranger staggering through my house, butting walls and falling over furniture, looking for a way out. In the last room, where moonlight slanted through a broken shutter, I found my smallest son, asleep or dead, floating on a bed of colorless light. When I leaned closer, I could smell the small breaths going and coming, and each bore its prayer for me, the true and earthy prayer of salami. There's another poem that it comes out of the experience of Spain. When I was a young boy, the older brothers of my friend enlisted in the Abraham Lincoln Brigade, many of them, and went to Spain to fight in the Spanish Civil War, which some of you are probably too young to know much about. But it was a war somewhat like the Vietnam War, I suppose. A country fighting for its own integrity and aided by huge heavily armed foreign powers, the other side, aided by those powers. So the Spanish Republic was fighting for its own integrity, and the working class was supporting it. But the army, led first by Mola and later by Franco, were heavily aided by Mussolini and Hitler, and heavily denied by the so-called republics, the democracies of Western Europe and the United States. And so a great many people put their own lives on the line and went and fought, since they would not send them arms. People sent themselves. And this is a poem about a young man who went from my neighborhood and never came back. It's called To P.L., 1916 to 1937, Soldier of the Republic. Gray earth peeping through snow, you lay for 3 days with one side of your face frozen to the ground. They tied your cheek with the red and black scarf of the anarchists and bundled you in canvas and threw you away. Before that, an old countrywoman of the Oregon, spitting on her thumb, rubbing it against your forefinger, stole your black Wellingtons, the gray hunting socks, and the long, slender knife you wore in a little leather scabbard riding your right hip. She honed it, ran her finger down the blade and laughed, though she had no meat to cut, blessing your tight fists that had fallen side by side like frozen faces on your hard belly that was becoming earth. Years later, she saw the two faces at table and turned from the bread and the steaming oily soup, turned to the darkness of the open door and opened her eyes to darkness, that they might be filled with anything but those two faces squeezed in the blue of snow and snow and snow. She blessed your feet, still pink, with hard yellow shields of skin at heel and toe. And she laughed, scampering across the road into the goat field and up the long hill, the boots bundled in her skirts and the gray hunting socks and the knife. For 7 weeks she wore the boots, stuffed with rags at toe and heel. She thought she understood why you lay down to rest, even in snow, and gave them to a nephew, and the gray socks too. The knife is still used, the black handle almost white, the blade worn thin since there is meat to cut. Without laughter, she has gone 10 years now, and on the road to Huesca in spring, there is no one to look for you among the wild jonquils, the curling grasses at the roadside, and the blood-red poppies. No one to look on the farthest tip of wind, breathing down from the mountains and shaking the stunted pines you hid among. Somebody asked me, Madeline asked me to read a poem I recently published. Kind of a wild poem. So great she's out. Kind of long. This one hurts. Unless I find it. This will be in my new book called Paradise Lost.